Fault Lines.
We are back. Fault Lines with Nixon Stranahan. 105.5 FM, AM 1390 here in Washington, D.C. You can check us out if you miss an episode on podcast at Spreaker, Stitcher, the Apple Podcast app, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and any place where great podcasts are curated. Also, of course, the Sputnik website and Sputnik app, 202-521-1320 is the phone number to call in, 202-521-1320. Okay, so let me set this up. So Dan Bongino's a guy, he's got a podcast. He's got about 800, 900,000 followers. I don't know because he's got me blocked on Twitter, but something along those, okay? He's on the Fox News career path. Now, what I mean by that is he's a guy, you see it when people do the show and they do the show and they do the show.
Yep.
Then they're like, hey, can you come on and like substitute host?
Yep.
And that's the sort of, they're trying you out.
Right.
Does that make sense? And
you become from a commenter, you know, a person who does commentary who's unpaid, you become a contributor. When you see the word contributor, the contributor's paid. And then, of course, like you said, then once a person is a contributor, if somebody's off, contributor can actually sit in and, like you said, you're trying to feeling your way into a full-time job.
And let me say
that's where
this,
the big bucks are.
I honestly do not begrudge people making money. I got to say that. I do not at all begrudge people making money. Furthermore, I also understand that with a certain paycheck, there goes some often there are areas you're not going to go into. And I've said it before. There could be a situation, there hasn't been yet, but there could be a situation because we're on Sputnik and we're funded by Russia, where something happens that Putin does something that I think is just wrong, and let's say Americans die or something like that, right? That would put us in a bad situation.
Yep.
In terms of commentary. But what I wouldn't do about it is I wouldn't lie for Putin or anybody or Sputnik or anybody. I never lied for Breitbart. I never lied for Huffington Post. Does that make sense? There are certain things you might not touch. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Or you might soft pedal, or you might go blah blah blah. And I get it. I'm not like a ideological purist on this, where I'm like, if you don't, if you don't call out the person, you're a shill.
Right.
I don't believe that at all. Now, however, I wouldn't lie, and I wouldn't lie about other people. This is the thing that always bugs me. I will make an analogy to the Clinton thing because it is an analogy to me. What bugged me about Clinton was when he lied about Monica Lewinsky. That is using your power in a way that I think is awful. In other words, if you're caught, you're caught. And just go, you know
my
what?
bad. My bad. You know what I mean? You're done.
My bad. It's not her fault. I'm the adult. I'm the more mature, responsible one here. And she was obviously nothing but nice to me, right? But instead, if you kind of smear him or use your power to smear him behind the scenes, I don't like that. So to me, there's a difference between like just copying to something. And again, I wouldn't call him out. Now, he's written a book called Spygate. And by the way, DC McAllister, who we have on the show frequently, I like DC. She's one of the co-authors, along with a guy named Michael Caputo. And we have DC in the show. And I'm not trying to put DC in an uncomfortable position.
Right.
Because she's not the one doing what he's doing. And we have a morning radio show, and I like to keep things, I'll put it like this. We got two guests coming on to talk about this Ilhan Omar thing and anti-Semitism. Laura Loomer's coming on. Laura's a friend of mine. I like Laura. I don't agree with her on Israel, and I don't agree with some of the stuff she does, and I'm sure doesn't agree with some of the stuff I do. But I don't want to make her uncomfortable. Does that make sense?
Right.
That's not my job, and it's not my job to make our other guests uncomfortable either. But it's our job to,
But how about this? I think one of the things we're trying to do, and that's the issue I got with just this attack stuff, and that is we're trying to facilitate a conversation. You know what I mean? Not be the news. We're not trying to be the news. We're trying to facilitate a conversation about the news. It's a big difference. Whereas right now, the news people out there are trying to be and create and make the news instead of facilitate a conversation about the news or deliver information to you that you can decide about.
Okay, so I'm about to talk about Dan Bongino's attack on me, so it's going to sound like I'm making me the news, but I agree with you, actually.
Right.
And I don't think that's what I'm doing. Here's what I'm saying. There's two versions of events.
Yep.
One of them is that Bill Browder's attorney is Jonathan Weiner, who is at the center of this fake Russia scandal. He's the person who brought Christopher Steele in it. He is the person who was being updated by Christopher Steele throughout the summer. He hooked Christopher Steele up in the State Department with Victoria Nuland. You can find this. Jonathan Weiner, we talk about him many times. He is right at the center of this. And by the way, a Democrat, right?
Mm-hmm.
He is a Democrat. And most of the people I attack, John McCain is part of this cabal, and he's not a Democrat. But most of them happen to be Democrats in this case, specifically about the Trump-Russia thing, because the DNC was involved. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Remember that. I don't shy away from saying Democrats and DNC. I say it all the time. Now, so Bongino, a month and a half ago or so, people have been telling him, hey, Dan, you should really listen to Lee's work. Lee's onto something here. Hey, you should do it. And he's never done it.
He can't. But go ahead.
Because Browder, Fox loves him. But more importantly, Fox loves
I'm Nathan Reeves.
Yeah.
I've always loved building furniture.
And you can look it up. Go up to Fox News and type in, what is the Magnitsky Act? And they have a video that they made for their website to show people what the Magnitsky Act is. And guess what? It is literally Browder's entire narrative. There's no hint that there's anything controversial. If you look it up, they've always covered that. Okay, so Dan Bongino's been attacking me, but it's not substantive. The only thing he says is he quotes me saying that I'm on the Russian payroll, because I am, and the Russian benefits package as well. So, because, you know, you need insurance. So, I'm on all that. And that's all he quotes. Yesterday, he's got a podcast. Yesterday, he talked about me. This is a couple minutes long, so I want to play the whole thing. This is the part where he talks about me. Now, you got to remember, this is over there's a question of fact here. I'm saying there's no question Bill Browder's attorney was Jonathan Weiner. Here's some things that this guy Bongino's never told his audience, Garland. He's never told them that Bill Browder renounced his U.S. citizenship. He never tells them about his family's past, the communist past. He never tells them that Weiner is his attorney. Bill Browder's attorney never mentions that, right? Never mentions it once. And he does mention Weiner in his book, and he talks about Browder and praises him. The big one to me is that one. The other ones, Bongino just leaves out. You know why? Because he knows his Fox audience will go, well, wait a second. That's why Fox never tells. Fox never says, Bill Browder, whose family was the preeminent communist family in the 30s, blah, 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 never says that, which is true. It was. And he never mentions that. Now, by the way, I don't think that's an argument against Bill Browder, really. Does that make sense?
Right.
I don't agree with that. But when you hide it.
Well, in the context of the whole Browder story, if you understand that, you understand that the reason that in the 1990s Bill Browder could go into Russia, he could be part of that whole group that was kind of looting the country, was because of his connections.
Yes.
Because his father was running the Communist Party in the U.S.
His
and he had a lot of
grandfather,
connections. His grandfather,
yeah.
me. So understanding that is part of understanding the context of who Bill Browder is and why. But you know what I mean? It's not like but it is part of the context of the story in understanding who Bill Browder is. But then again, the people that are pushing this, they don't want you to understand the story. If you understand the story, you won't agree with them.
Dan Bongino has adopted Bill Browder's narrative, which is that the Trump Tower meeting was a setup. This is Bill Browder's narrative on the right. It was a setup by the Russians, that the Democrats are colluding with the Russians. That's where the real collusion is. If you don't believe me, you're going to hear it here. Let's listen to Dan Bongino going off on me. Let's listen to his substantive, factual argument to address why he's never talked about Bill Browder and Jonathan Weiner and their connection, which is right at the center of this whole thing. Let's hear Dan Bongino.
And can I mention one thing? Listen, I don't mention a lot of these third-rate conspiracy theory folks out there. A lot of people are going after me on Twitter. They're goons, and Joe knows who they are. Yeah. The reason is one of them specifically works for the Russians. I mean, you don't believe me? Just read his own articles. He's working for the Russians in an effort, and I don't want to even mention his name because he's such a wacko that it's just insane, but he has a following of people who somehow believe this lunatic. But there's an effort out there, Joe, primarily being led by this guy who's being paid by the Russians to make you believe that this isn't a Democrat conspiracy. This is all about this one guy and Hermitage Capital and all this. Listen, nobody in this is a saint, including the guy he talks about all the time. And I've actually had long conversations with other people about him. But don't buy into the nonsense conspiracy theory that this isn't about the Russians and the Democrats. This is about one guy who managed to overthrow the United States by himself. The guy is ridiculous promoting this. And some of you know what I'm talking about. I didn't mention the guy's name because he's that nuts. And it's funny. He has to ask people for money, although he's already admitted he's being paid by the Russians. I wonder why he has to ask people for money then. Don't be misled. This was keep the heat where it should be. The Obama administration, John Brennan, the Five Eyes players that didn't provide any help in this to us, Hillary Clinton, and the Russian companies that engaged in a massive disinformation campaign. All right, sorry for the sidebar, but it was important. I've been meaning to mention that.
It's interesting. Two things. If I got an issue with somebody, I am going to specifically mention their name. I'm going to say, yeah,
Right.
this is who it is, and this is what. But the other part that I thought
you know why he doesn't, though? Because if people look it up,
because they'll start going to your Twitter page
and they will
they will look at what you had to say, and they may go to Populist TV, and they may watch Bill Browder's
They can go to
2015 interview and say, wait a minute, this guy that you're calling a nutcase has put forth substantial substantive evidence to prove his case.
There's nothing I'm saying that's actually controversial. Jonathan, there's nothing that I'm saying is controversial. Jonathan Weiner is Bill Browder's lawyer. Jonathan Weiner is the guy who hooked up the State Department with Christopher Steele. He's right at the center of this. As I say, you got to understand, this is not necessarily about Fox News protecting Browder per se. It's about the Magnitsky Act.
Right, it's
about the Magnitsky Act, you see, which is, and by the way, and the fact that Jonathan Weiner is part of APCO worldwide, the lobbying firm, and Bill Richardson is also part of APCO worldwide. And Bill Richardson is on the board of something called Genie Energy, which, by the way, erased their page. Remember, you could go.
We used to always go to Genie Energy, right? Because there was Mary Landrieu, there was one of the Rothschilds, there was.
Right. Go to a web browser, type in Genie Energy Strategic, Advisory Board, and you'll see it come up. But then when you click on it, it'll say page not found. Tell me if it doesn't do that for you.
Investors.
So you'll see it. And then click on it, and you'll see page not found. And I've searched. Nobody can find it. It seems like they've deleted it.
Well, I mean, they had Rupert Murdoch's name on there. One of the Rothschilds was on there.
And Rupert,
Bill Richardson was on there.
But let's go over that. Rupert Murdoch.
Bill Richardson, which one of the former CIA chiefs was on there?
Woolsey.
You know what I mean? No wonder they erased it.
But here's what I'm saying. Rupert Murdoch from Fox is on this board, which is about oil in this disputed area of the Golan Heights, the exclusive drilling rights. And there's a ton of oil there. There's a lot of money. This is a lot of money. Rupert Murdoch is on this board, and so is Bill Richardson. Bill Richardson is with Jonathan Weiner's company, APCO. Weiner's an executive there. And so for a variety of reasons, which, by the way, you'll never hear Bongino talk about, for a variety of reasons, I think Fox is hiding this, but also because the establishment in general is hiding it.
Well, you notice something else he said? It's interesting. And that just kind of snuck in there. He's saying, well, and it's obvious he's referring to Bill Browder. Well, yeah, the guy behind this thing is no angel.
Yes, exactly.
So here's what that says, Dan. You know that Bill Browder is shiesty. Even he had to admit.
Did you hear him say that he's had long talks with people about Browder?
Yep.
He said, I've had long talks with people about this guy.
Yep.
He's referring to Browder.
He's no angel. Yeah. But he's mad at you. See, here's the thing. There's a difference between me saying Lee Stranahan's no angel and saying that Stranahan is the Hillside Strangler. Could be the same thing. So he says, yeah, Bill Browder's no angel. But what he doesn't get into is, what does he mean? And here's the key. He can't. If somebody was to say to him, What do you mean Bill Browder's no angel? He couldn't tell you that. He'd be out of work
Here's
over
what it
in
is.
an hour. He'd
What-
be fired in a second if he said told the reason why.
If Dan Bongino had a brain in his big fat head, right? If he had a brain, what he would have said is yesterday he would have said, you know, this guy, he's no angel. You know, his grandfather was a head of the Communist Party, for instance. But he couldn't even do that. What he could have done is started to slip it out a little bit and then say, see, I've been telling people, go listen to the thing. I said that but he couldn't even slip
Can't do it.
that detail in. He could have said, he's no angel's grandfather, you know, but whatever. I don't like it, but
It was even risky for him to say that Bill Browder's no angel. People
Yes.
might come back to him. What are you talking about? Bill Browder's no angel.
Yeah.
We know that, but you're not supposed to let it out.
202-521-1320. Mark in North Carolina. What did you think of Dan Bongino's performance there, Mark?
Well, I'm not surprised. I mean, you know, he's part of that Fox News talk radio mafia type that appeals to a certain kind of so-called conservative, not really conservative, more of neocons. They have basically an older audience. Many don't know how to most don't know how to transverse the internet to find out real news, like you guys, like American Vagabond and Lionel and others. So they go with this garbage. So they think, oh, it's a Russian station. They never listen to it. They don't hear real news. They don't have a clue real news. And Bongino was a bum. I'm not surprised.
Well, let me ask you this, Mark. So the stuff that he was saying about, you know, the Russian station and Browder's blah, blah, you know, went wrong. Let me ask you this. The stuff that he was saying, even though he's saying it's a Democrat conspiracy, the stuff that he was saying about Browder, the Russian stuff, do you think Adam Schiff
Those
or
are
Nancy
Democrat talking
Pelosi
points.
or Mark Warner, do you think any of them would disagree with him? Do you think any of them would say, oh, Dan Bongino, you're wrong. He's saying he's anti-Democrat, but there's nothing that the leadership of the Democratic Party would disagree with him on at all, is there, Mark?
No, they took out of the same kitchen. People don't seem to understand that. They're just the other side of the coin. Fox News, I call them the fake news network, they're just another one of the cable TV that I don't even bother with anymore. Other than once in a while, I'll try to catch something with Tucker Carlson. I'll try to catch him on the net because I do respect him. He's about as close as he can get to alternate news on the mainstream media.
Hey, Mark, thanks for the call. Great call. Appreciate it, as usual. We got more coming up. The guy, but that is bad, right? He's got no argument.
Nothing.
Come on, Dan. No one's afraid of you. We'll have you on the show. You're listening to Fall Lines with Nixon and Stranahan.